Well, Brian, now it's the time that some of us may have been waiting on. We've got to talk about the offering from AEW this past Wednesday night. You leave that in if you want, Jace. The 12th of March is the 12th of That's the response I've had ever since I watched this television show. It gave me the sour belches, and I've not been able to recuperate because I don't know what they're doing now. Because this is just it's like they just said, "Oh, we got to do something to fill this time up. Let's do this," and the same amount of people are going to watch it. I think they've got to be down to the nub at this point. I'm sure they'll do about their same average, but I have to think this is going to be another one of those slalom shows where they lose people off the edge at the end. But Brian, are you happy we got some more tournaments coming up?
When they announced that, I groaned. But I mean, I knew we had the Owen Hart tournament coming up. And we know we have the Continental at the end of the year.
But that doesn't take into account the Dynasty Eliminator tournament.
Yeah, wild card. Tony thought of another tournament. And this tournament's a stupid tournament. It's not even a standard tournament. It's a stupid tournament.
Well, if we're going to talk stupid, let's get the head honcho of Stupid Incorporated out here. The first thing we saw was Kenny. Kenny came out, Twinkle Toes McFingerbang in his baggy shorts, sleeveless t-shirt, and fluorescent tennis shoes. And he's got this grand entrance music, and then when he's wrestling, he wears these grand outfits, and it's overdone to the dramatic extreme. But when he comes out to do an interview, he's just dressed like some parking attendant, and he looks like kind of like maybe some kid's soccer coach going around greeting the parents on the way to the ring. It's so blasé and lackadaisical. Hi, and he's smiling and waving. He'll sign an autograph.
Kid's soccer coach.
Well, I mean, look at him. What? You're getting mixed messages with the presentation and the visual. But anyway, and then I said, oh, he's going to talk. And he talked. He's in a dream state. He's not only back, but with all your support. I'm back with a singles title. And of course, it took him a minute and a half to say all that. There was a lot of branching off. And he thanked the breathy, nonchalant voice and meandering conversational style. He thanked Take a Shit for pushing him. And I don't think he's an exciting personality. I think he's a kind of a just bleh. But he said Tony Khan had an idea for the Dynasty Eliminator tournament, and Kenny likes it because whoever holds that belt, and that he's talking about the belt that he has, which is the international title, right?
That is correct.
Whoever
Okada has the Continental, and they'll probably merge them.
Yeah, and then it would be the Intercontinental title. Whoever holds the international title should be the best wrestler on the planet. The world champion would like a word. But nevertheless, he said, I want to face the best because the person who holds this belt should be the best in the world. So then he bid us adieu, blew us a kiss, and said good night and bang. And he left the ring there. By the way, did I mention that him speaking could put a meth addict to sleep? But Brian, here is the Dynasty International Championship Eliminator Tournament field to determine who the best wrestler in the world is. You want to hear who's in this tournament?
Let's hear it.
Hechicero! Hechicero! Hechichero's in it. Our little dog pockets. Frank the Beast Mortis. a wild card. Shapoopy. Shapoopy's in the tournament to determine the best. Ricochet, Mark Briscoe, and Mark Davis. The winner of that tournament will face Kenny. So do we want to see Kenny versus Mark Davis? Do we want to see Kenny versus Mark Briscoe at this point? Might be the best Kenny match that we could see.
I wouldn't mind seeing that.
But is that a pay-per-view championship match for the best in the world? Shapoopy?
No.
Frank the Beast Mortis? Chicharo? Pockets?
No.
It's down to Ricochet, and then there's Wild Card. More on that in a moment. I think Ricochet has to win this thing, doesn't he? Because he's both a heel and a gymnast that Kenny can vault with.
Well, unless they want to really do everything they can to get Wild Card over, they may have him win. Kind of a hell of a way to debut in AEW. Wild Card wins, and I mean, you would think either Ricochet or you mentioned another name, and I don't even know. Oh, the Beast Mortos. Actually, I want to see Omega versus the Beast Mortos. I want to see what that's going to be like, but I don't think that's going to be the main event either. Or the final, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah. Well, nevertheless, Kenny is leaving, and on the way out and coming out of the entranceway to meet him are the Ops. Samoa Joe, Shapoopy, and Hook. And of the three of them, the one to go stare down at Kenny is not Samoa Joe, but it's Shapoopy. Now you're going to say, why is anybody staring Kenny down? Because they're all baby faces. That's why it doesn't make any fucking sense. But you've got Samoa Joe teamed up with Hook and Shapoopy having random six-mans with jobbers that make funny faces when you need top stars. What the fuck is going? And Joe was the last world champion before they dropped it to MJF and everything started going to fucking hell when everybody started getting hurt and fucking meandering around.
I mean, style-wise, Kenny Omega maybe doesn't want to have a physical match like he would with Joe. It'd be different. I mean, not that his matches aren't physical. It looks like he's always going to hurt himself. But with Joe, it may be a different animal. I don't know.
Well, goddamn, then just put Joe over for the belt and be on your way. They need top talent and singles guys that people can fucking believe in and get behind. And they were with Joe until that was whatever the fuck happened. Didn't he? They said he was going to make a movie. He was gone for fucking 9 months or whatever.
What do you think of the Ops as a group? A group with shirts, a group that's put together that you see walk out there and you see the visual. What do you think?
No. Hook may be a fine young man. He ain't ready to be teamed up with a top guy like Joe. Shibata, please. In any lifetime in this country, he's not going to make a shit bit of difference to anything. And the Ops, the tag team fucking partners are next door neighbors of the Gumps. I mean, what the fuck? And they did have a match with 3 jobbers that made funny faces, and they beat them in 2 minutes. And the one that got the win was a kick by Shapoopy. And then the fans started chanting, Joe, Joe, Joe. Because he's the only one they give a shit about in this whole fucking thing. And Ricochet was in the back having a promo about the tournament match on Saturday he's going to have with Shapoopy. And there was a lot of talking, especially in the back on this show. Swerve was talking in the back about the world title, but then Edge came in and say he might win the title first, so Swerve could face him. So let's confuse the issue further, because I don't think anybody wants to see what they've advertised. Let's give them a bunch of what ifs and see if that sticks.
Did you see they announced Cope versus Moxley next week? Is it false count anywhere or no DQ, whatever the stipulation is?
Well, that was next with Dick the Boozer in the back, slobbering in a dark room, but there was a lot of noise in the background. He wasn't like in his solitude room in his dungeon in Cincinnati. He was in the back room of the building where people couldn't even be bothered to be quiet while he was shooting a promo. But that's yes, next week, Edge and the Boozer for the title. And is it street fight or falls count anywhere? What? No DQ. Did you like the tag match that happened next, Brian? Because I know there's not a lot to say about many of these things. But they showed last week Brian Cage and Lance Archer attacking Powerhouse Hobbs, right? So they had a tag match with Brian Cage and Dralistico versus Powerhouse Hobbs and Hologram. And Hologram was accompanied by Harley Cameron in a hologram outfit, calling herself Harley Graham.
She's more over than he is.
But it looked like two muscle builders, bodybuilders, teaming up with two children in Halloween costumes. And as soon as they all get out there, they started with an immediate four-way where they were the two minute lucha guys. Hologram was announced at 170 pounds. And I don't believe that. They got in the ring and started having a match and doing rolling and tumbling. And meanwhile, Cage and fucking Hobbs, that are 300 pounds apiece, are out on the floor. Just, it didn't look real great, but they were fighting and pounding on each other. And the referee was the corpse ref, of course, Rick Knox, wasn't paying attention at all to the fight on the floor. He was checking a hold in the ring that the guy had on. It looked like two completely unrelated things going on at the same time, and the fans were completely silent for both of them because it didn't even visually make any fucking sense. Am I lying about this?
No, you're not lying. And I don't think Hologram's very good, but back to your review.
Well, it looked like what we used to see when Nick Goulas and it was still running the territory here, and he was doing the same shit he did for 25 years, a mixed man and midget tag team match. You got Bill Dundee and Cowboy Lang going against fucking Wayne Ferris and Little Tokyo. Oh, now see, you got to be that way to. Dundee had a good 1 and 2 inches on Cowboy Lang.
Because Cowboy Lang was kind of tall for the midgets, wasn't he?
He was a larger midget. And there was some phony looking shit in this match, especially the tumblers, but also Cage is not good and Hobbs isn't good with him. But Hobbs beat what was his name? He's not a hologram. He was
Dralistico
with a spine buster. And then here came Lance Archer and Mark Davis, and they yelled at Hobbs, but nobody did anything. And I'm like, Archer's there. What is that? Poor Hobbs. My Hobbs, poor Hobbs. In the back, MVP and the Hurt Syndicate. And MVP has got a string of promos going on. He is clicked in his groove, and he was in the back. He's given them a week off to go have fun. And go out and enjoy yours. No, we want to hurt some more people. We want to train. No, go have fun. I'm giving you the week off. You don't have to wrestle tonight. So off they went to have fun. But again, there was a lot of... It was a strange choice. Start out the show with Kenny, who is not a fireball orator. He's never been known to excite people with his mouth in a verbal fashion. And then you have a 6-man, the guys that were going over in the squash were barely, except for Joe, above the jobber level. And then repeated promos in the back, and then the oddest tag team match just out of nowhere. Hologram and Hobbs, Cage and Drilistico. And then you're in the back again. They showed tape of the female torture porn that they aired on the pay-per-view with Maria May and Toni Storm. And then here comes Toni Storm out. She gets on the stage. She's in the spotlight. And she's doing her accent. And she said, "This tramp is still the champ." And I got to be honest, I can't watch or listen to this stuff. It is so preposterous, but this is the only thing that they had really enjoyed up till now. The people are cheering this fucking phony bullshit. So it's the people that watch wrestling to laugh at it. And I can't blame them with this product that they're watching, but I still have some resentment toward people that laugh at wrestling. But I can understand with what they're watching. But she finished her performance, and then Megan Brain came from behind and knocked her out with a forearm with one shot from boom, and stood over her. They just showed tape. She'd been a bloody mess. She'd been pile driven. She'd been fucking beat with blunt instruments and won the match. But this girl come, boom, one forearm, flat, one down she goes and stays there. Was this a wrestling show or public access on cable where people are allowed to come and do their skits, Brian?
Well, at least her skit's over. Like you said, I may not be a big fan of just the over. I think I've said it before. I'd be a fan of it if it was on other TV shows other than wrestling. Like, who's this crazy character? She's like, the new Phyllis Diller. Who is she? But instead, it's in the middle of the show, and, everyone enjoys playing along. That's where the ironic wrestling fan comes back into play. Megan Bayne. Man, I'm high on her. She's got a look. She carries herself well. We haven't seen her really work a long, good match yet. But they're going with her right away.
I got some background on her. One of the fans, when we were talking about her a show or two ago, and we were saying, how did WWE miss out on this? Apparently, AEW found her before she either had trained at all, or as I recall, had trained very little, and nobody had seen her, and they put her under a contract and sent her to wherever the fuck she was, Japan or whatever. So the poor thing, I guess, was sold a bill of goods that they were a company that could develop talent, that didn't know much about the wrestling business, didn't know how to. I mean, if you knew anything about the wrestling business and you're Megan Bayne standing looking in the mirror, you go, I need to call the WWE. But, apparently that's how they got her. And now, however long her contract is going to be however long she has to serve in this purgatory before we find out if she can learn and grow and become a star to match the look.
It's like being a baseball player, and you're out of high school. You have a choice of college, maybe, or getting drafted. Or maybe you're out of college, you get drafted. Right now, she's working the minor leagues. And I don't even mean that as a shot of AEW. I'm talking about baseball, that actual example. But put in your time, get better at what you do, and when the time is right, you can go, and you may not get a ton of money right out of the gate, but you'll have the chance to, especially with her look and her size.
But see, now you're overlooking one thing, though. The baseball players had played baseball
all their lives.
Yeah. And what is going to happen here is this girl with this amazing size and look and presence and whatever is going to learn from these slapdash indie jackoffs all these bad habits and how not to think about a wrestling match and how to put shit together where your moves look like you're at a video game instead of having a match. And they're going to hold up as the pinnacle of female wrestling accomplishment, that fucking, ridiculous insanity that Toni Storm and Maria did the other day, and they're going to think that's good. And then she's going to have to be retrained, which may be more difficult than training from scratch when she gets to NXT. So, Brian, I think, well, go ahead. What were you going to say? I was just going to say,
if you wanted her to get better right now, is there a better person? I mean, maybe one or two, but are there too many better people than Toni Storm for her to work with in the ring, talking about actually working?
Well, but it depends. Again, I don't know who to go out on a limb for anymore. Toni Storm obviously wants to be an actress or whatever, or something. I don't know what's going on in her mind that she would perpetrate this on the wrestling business. But there needs to be a Mickie James. We were talking about somebody who was training the girls on the LFG show or BFD show or whatever the fuck it is. And they moved her over for Michelle McCool. Mickie James would be able to speak to the girls from experience. She's been around long enough. She knows stupid shit not to do. And it's the same, she could funnel people, accentuate strengths and eliminate weaknesses, or they can just go out there and do their own thing.
They have Serena Deeb. I mean, she's not necessarily the same in terms of success as a character as Mickie James, but in terms of in-ring work.
Well, Serena can teach the mechanics and the physical part because she was a Rip Rogers student. She knows how to wrestle and knows how to work the physical part, but because she's never been in a major position and hasn't worked as a single on her own like Mickie James has, and hasn't worked for a long time in the major company to learn how to work with television production, etc., she might not be the best psychology or performance coach. But that's why you get a little bit of everything. Brian, you know what you get a little bit of everything with?
What's that? No, I don't.
The Raycon everyday wireless earbuds. That's what you get a little bit of everything with.
That's a 5-star transition there. Great job.
Because you get a little bit of music, you get a little bit of news, you get a little bit of podcasts, you get a little bit of phone calls. You can do most anything with you can listen to anything with these things. You can program them to say exactly or do exactly what you want them to say and do. Play the music you want to. Play your own kind of music. Live your own kind of life with the Raycon everyday earbuds. Nobody's going to judge you because nobody can hear what you're listening to. Can you imagine, Brad? You could be walking down the side of the street or driving down the road. You could be listening to the sound effects of some graphic pornography with a smile on your face, and nobody knows. They think you're listening to, I don't know, Barbara Mandrell. In actuality, you're listening to Vanessa Del Rio. Oh, my God. Give it to me up the ass.
Well, hold on. Let's take a step back. Let's take a giant step back. Why would you listen to anything like that walking down the street? It seems like you'd be torturing yourself. But let's get back to the sounds of podcasts and music, and out of the brain of Louisville, Raycon.
Yes. Now, is there any podcast where they play the sounds of famous porn stars getting protruded up the yin yang?
I don't know
because
anything.
That would be another thing you could listen to. The podcast world needs something different. But folks, something different comes with the everyday wireless earbuds, because they're different in fact that they cost less than half the price of these other premium audio brands with similar features. Well, you don't need to spend all your money. You can get the Raycons. They know what you want. They're hooking you up. You know how they do it? Low overhead. They don't pay all those girls to make those soundtracks of those sexual encounters. They put a microphone out in front of the window of an apartment complex in Cleveland, and then they pass the savings on to you. And their latest model is better than ever, a 32-hour battery life, so you can My God, you could listen to somebody literally just scream and yell to your heart's content in 32 hours. And it lets you pair with 2 devices at once, wink, wink, with the multi-point connectivity feature. And they come in a variety of vibrant colors, Brian. They've got all kinds of vibrant colors for different skin tones and festive occasions. Get the red ones for Valentine's Day. And the pink ones whenever you climb Mount Vulva. And they offer a 30-day happiness guarantee return policy where they will not ask you any questions whatsoever. They'll just take them back and they'll give you your money back, and then you'll be placed on a list. If I were you, I wouldn't try to leave the country. Brian, you got your name off that list, didn't you?
Well, there are no lists, and of course, you can listen to anything you want on your Raycons, podcast, music, the finest sounds, everything from, like you said before, yin yang to lin lang, whatever it is, Raycon.
What? Yin yang to ling lang. Well, you can listen at the gym. You can listen at work. No wonder you get fired. You never hear what the boss is telling you because you're always listening to our podcast while you're at work. And you can make and receive phone calls on these things. Well, you can't actually talk into them, but you can hear your phone calls through the earbud. Can you talk into the earbuds?
I am not the authority to let the audience know exactly what to do.
Maybe we ought to be using these earbuds for our new sound apparatus here on the program.
Well, again, let's get back to the listener, Mr. and Mrs. America, and of course around the world. Well, at least let's focus on America now that I think about it. Raycon, there for you.
Well, that's good. Most of the people around the world don't like us much anymore, so they might not be listening anyway. Well, but Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea, if you don't get the Raycon everyday earbuds, you're missing out. The greatest sound quality. They've got active noise cancellation. You can drown out the most maddening of sounds, such as the daily news. And they've got all the other things, the quick charge function, the vibrant colors, 30-day guarantee. And right now, you can go to buyraycon.com, BUYRAYCON, buyraycon.com/JCE, and get 20% off. 20% off the best-selling everyday earbuds. They are the best-selling everyday earbuds in the entire category of everyday earbuds. And they're brought to you by Raycon. That's buyraycon.com/JCE. 20% off, and you can literally listen to anything. As a matter of fact, if you put these in your ears and you put your head up or your ear up against the wall, you can hear what's going on in the next room.
That is not... No, did I press mute? I did not. I am still mad. My fingers sometimes do their own thing. That is not how it works, but Raycon will be there to work for you with the latest sounds, the greatest sounds, all sounding great in your ears. Let's get
the latest sounds, the greatest sounds, all sounding great. And here's mounds of sounds and stacks of wax, all designed with you in mind. And here's one's guaranteed to blow your mind from that golden year, 1957. Buy Raycon.com/JCE. 20% off.
Yes, a great deal. Great earbuds, Raycon.
Well, you better quit while you're ahead now.
JCE.
Because we see you wouldn't quit. Now, here's another thing you can do with them, but you got to lube them up first.
No, let's just move on now from here, please. Oh, God, damn you. Back to AEW. Speaking of lubing things up, AEW Dynamite.
Yes, all right.
He's there. He's back, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, I had to take a break for a moment. All right, the next match was what was it called? The Dynasty Eliminator Tournament for an international title shot match. And it was Frank the Beast Mortis taking on the wild card who turned out to be, drum roll please, Speedball Mike Bailey. Now, I have heard the name Speedball Mike Bailey. I've heard it. I've seen it in print. I have heard of that name, but I've never seen this guy wrestle. I've never seen a picture of him. I didn't know what the fuck to expect here, but I've heard this name. And Brent, I think you can agree. It sounds kind of like a cool now. Speedball Mike Bailey.
Yeah.
Right?
Like Rollerball Rocco. It's a cool name. And like you, I had seen the name and I certainly had like kind of maybe unfairly a vision in my mind of what he could look like and what he could be. And we got to see him finally.
And it wasn't that, was it? That you might have envisioned. I think they should have called him Pinball, because that's about the size that he is, and that's what he does. He's got a karate gimmick, but it doesn't look like a legitimate karate gimmick. And they say he's a 4th degree black belt in Taekwondo, but I think it's a video game karate gimmick. He's wearing the flashy Far Eastern influenced jacket, and he's doing the fist in the palm pose, and he's got a great smile. Do you think those teeth are really his, or did he get those implants?
Oh, I actually was wondering about the smile too. I don't know if they were teeth. I thought it was a mouth guard.
Oh, it might have been, but he's got a big old bright smile. They are the whitest.
Yeah, it was so bright. That's what made me look. Yeah.
Yeah, the whitest teeth I've ever come across. But the problem is, he's got 2 problems. Number 1, he's from the Twinkle Toes school of pointing, posing, and gesticulating. And secondly, he was shorter and lighter than Aubrey Ed, who was the referee and towered over him. They didn't even announce him at a weight. But I mean, it looks like a small child that has dressed up in a fancy martial arts video game costume, and he's been training in the Junior Olympics for the uneven parallel bars. And but I should have known when everybody was saying, "Oh, this guy would be something special," that it had to be this kind of thing instead of the Braun Breaker kind of thing, where he really is special and it is going to be a fucking big star. We got another fucking master of the floor exercise. So, and he's not real smart either. He launches into the gymnastics, the flips and the kicks and the pointing and the posing. But then week 2 in wrestling school, he must have fucking been sick that week. Because he's like the rest of them. He's concentrating on all the moves he's doing and the poses he's striking, and the shit didn't make any sense. He did a moonsault off the apron to the floor on Frank the Beast, but the Beast moved. So Bailey landed on his feet, and then the Beast fucking leveled him. So the babyface hot dogs, and it backfires when the heel outsmarts him. That is Bizarro World Wrestling School lesson in week 2. And I got to think the chains on the Beast's mask have to get in the way, even if they're plastic. It's got to get in the way of something. I don't know what the fuck. They were on the floor for a while, and Aubrey stared at them. And Mike Bailey took back over on the floor and got back in the ring to do another dive to the floor. And then they went to the break. And when they came back from the break, both guys were down and immobile. So they should be cueing these guys. And it's live television, so they've got a fucking set time. They should be cueing these guys when they come back from a break where they could be in action. It's what we used to do in OVW or in Ring of Honor, or any television program that I was attempting to produce. If you're in commercial break, you tell the referee, okay, we're coming back in 15 seconds. Tell them to get in a spot or get in motion. And you wouldn't come back with guys laying in a hold. You would come back with the people up, with the guys just fighting out of the hold and giving an elbow to the gut, another elbow to the gut, and he takes off and hits the ropes, but the other guy fucking clotheslines him back down, to where when you come back from the break, the viewer at home sees the people starting to cheer and make noise, and the guy starting to fight back and running and in some type of motion where you can call that. Brian trying to come out of the chin lock that he suffered for the entire commercial break, but there, wait, he's broken away and he comes off the ropes, but Cornette with a clothesline puts him down. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. You've done your call, then you do your reset. We're back on AEW. We got this and that title on the line or whatever the fuck, and people are with it instead of that. And then they got up and Mike Bailey started beating the shit out of Frank. And then the Beast was on the apron of the ring. Bailey turned around and went to hit the far rope so that he could run back all the way across the ring at the Beast for a big boot. And he missed him. His foot went right past him and the Beast was standing still. And did you see that part where his foot went straight over his fucking shoulder and the Beast sold it anyway?
I did see that, of course.
And then he did a backflip off the fucking buckle. That was perfect. So he can't hit a stationary target with his foot, but he can do backflips and land on his feet. And I wrote, I just noticed Speedball Mike Bailey is barefoot. How can you be less intimidated of a seventh grader you're about to fight? Oh, he's barefoot.
He was wrestling that whole time, and until one of the commentators actually said, he wrestles barefoot. I was like, oh shit. Because it's like half of his ankle or his whole ankle was covered, so you didn't even see his feet.
He's got some kind of kick pads or whatever that probably has a thing that goes around the foot to hold him on, but he has no shoes. And the way he wrestles, I'm pretty sure I know why. He can't afford them. So then they climbed to the top and gingerly balanced for a while so that the Beast could pick Mike Bailey up and press slam him off the top rope, which was a very impressive looking bump. And then the Beast gave Bailey more big moves. And then seconds after, he'd be fine and he'd be back on offense. And the Beast is twice his size. But they were wrestling like it was, they were even competitors. And then finally, Mike Bailey did a standing backflip and landed with both knees in the middle of the Beast's stomach. I swear to God, if I was Mortis and he looks like he could do it, I would have kicked the shit out of this kid for that move and the next one. Because after he backflipped and landed with his knees in the guy's stomach, then he did a double spinning ballet pirouette into a fucking kick to the head with his heel and potatoed the fuck out of the Beast. Did you see that one? I watched it in slow motion.
What did you think?
He kicked the side of the guy's head in with his fucking heel after he spun around for 3 times. I swear to God, I have never seen the lack of caring for or taking care of another motherfucker's body than I have from this company since they've been on the air in 50 years in the wrestling business. That guy wouldn't have got a chance to throw that kick but once. If either Mortis was really a beast or the booker had an idea on what the fuck he was doing, because Jesus H. Christ. But anyway, so we got another midget that's fucking doing the high wire and the trapeze act. And I bet you he'll go far in this tournament because Toni won't want to beat him because he's doing somersaults. What'd you think? Let down?
First time seeing this guy, a bit of a letdown when he came out and I realized he was a smaller guy. Not my thing, but let me ask you a question and try to look at the positives. After talking about the story of Charles Midget Fisher, do you think maybe Toni should lean into the fact that most of his roster, with the exception of some people like the Hurt Syndicate or whatever, are smaller guys, both in height and in weight, and in some cases both, and have a middleweight division so that it's not as ridiculous?
Well, then he'd have to change the name of all of his belts, and he's got so many belts that could put him out of fucking business.
No, it won't. He loves that. He loves new belts, and he has lots of money. And he doesn't love money. He loves giving it away. So it may work.
Yeah, so it needs to be the International Light Heavyweight title and the Continental junior heavyweight title and the fucking TBS middleweight title.
But so just use it to differentiate yourself from WWE. We have, this style of wrestling here. Even if it's not true, just fucking run with it so you have something.
Oh, it's true. They have a different style of wrestling than the WWE. They could advertise that all day long and not get fucking heat.
How tall was
false advertising?
How tall was Speedball or Pinball, whatever he's called him?
Could he have been 5'6"?
Okay, so that's what I was thinking. Was he like 5'5", 5'6"? So you were kind of in the same range.
How big is Aubrey? Because she was a little taller than he is. A little broader in the beam, too, but she's let herself go.
And he had like a Tatanka haircut. So I mean, just the whole thing.
Yeah,
I was like, who is this guy?
He looked a little bit like Paul London's younger, smaller, littler brother.
Was it Paul London a smaller guy?
Yes, he was. But not this small.
Do you think Speedball's going to get Omega? Do you think Speedball, the way they treated him here, his debut? Do you think?
I don't know if you'd asked me a year ago, I'd said maybe Omega'd get a Speedball, but I mean, why would? Yes, I'm sure that they'd love to wrestle each other so they can do all of the cartwheels and the round-offs and the cheerleading routines, but it wouldn't draw any fucking money. Anybody that's gonna in any way enjoy seeing Speedball Mike Bailey is already watching this program because it's no different than everything else they got. And speaking of everything else they got, what has happened? These obnoxious delinquent children, Nick Plain is bowing up and yelling at his father figure, Christian Cage, and he's an insolent young pup, and I think he needs to have a knot jerked in his tail, don't you?
Whatever ends all this, I'm all for.
Is there some way we can break this group up? Anything?
Christian, I'll use your terminology. He bowed up at Mama Wayne, and all I'm thinking is she can kick the shit out of Christian if she wanted to. She's bigger than him. She's taller than Christian.
She's the tallest member of the group, and counting her large upper frontal protuberances, I believe she's got the body weight on at least two of them.
Yeah, what'd you think of all this?
Well, they were in the back. It was Christian, the Cougar, and the Delinquents, Nick Plain and Pip Sabian. And Christian kicked Renee out because she was related to Moxley, so he did a promo about the pay-per-view fiasco and how he was cheated and he should have been the champion and everything. And suddenly, Nick turns around and says, "You're making excuses and you're telling lies and you owe all of us an apology for what you're saying." And that's when Christian shoved him. How about this? And Nick's mom got up in Christian's face and he threatened to send her back to the midnight shift at Waffle House. And that is a complete lie. She was not that bad off. She got off every day at 4:30 and did not come home smelling like she was scattered, smothered, and covered. She was diced every now and then.
The fuck is wrong with you? Back to the patriarchy.
But yes, the jerky of the patriarchy. And then Christian told Nick off real good and pushed him around. It was a good promo. Nobody cares because they don't care about this fucking group because it's all just blah. But again, so he's I think the one that's probably had the most heat is Nick's mom, because it's obvious that she don't belong there. She's just standing there because she's stuck in the fucking group with the rest of these people. So she's got some heat from just not belonging there and never doing anything. So when he's bullied, they haven't set her up to be any kind of sympathetic figure. So he's bullying her. They're probably, yeah, Christian. And with Nick just now grew a set of balls and has just developed these thoughts all of a sudden that he's got to say it on TV. I don't know what the fuck is going on here, but
I didn't like the stuff about his dad.
Said.
I didn't like the stuff about his dad. I thought that,
Oh, yeah. And again, it always has to be about, and your father died and he was a horrible failure. And why is anybody going to listen to that? But that's what they've been doing since the start. And Christian's whole thing has been about everybody's dead father. And you could be a father figure if you had a good line of bullshit and easily, swayed and impressionable minds, or Trump has done the same thing. But you've got to sell them something that they're getting that's positive, not just berate them and talk about what a loser their father was and we're glad he's dead. That it doesn't make any sense. And that's why nobody's giving a shit about it. Also, because who cares about Pip Sabian and Nick? He was a shiny toy for about 15 minutes for Toni, but now he's got other teenage prodigies to play with. So that was that.
Yet there's more.
Brian, there is indeed more. And I know I feel some false hope. I think they are trying to, or somebody has the germ of something, or maybe something will happen to make MJF appealing again based on this next segment. We can always hope. But MJF came out and cut a very short promo, which was refreshing again. That everybody knows he should have won on Sunday. It's not over with hangnail Adam Page, blah, blah, blah. But then MVP's music plays. And MVP comes out. And at first they're looking at each other warily. And they say MVP, MJF. And then they hug and they smile and they're old friends. And it's revealed that MVP first met MJF when he was 18 years old on an independent show, and he knew that there was
any man who could bond over Court Bauer's bad pay could be friends forever.
And he knew that there was something to MJF. And actually, that's the same time I met MJF over Court Bauer. Actually, I had negotiated fairly decent pay, but then when I found out how long the goddamn days were. But remember what I said to you? I said, MJF, he asked questions. He came and talked to the announcers at the announce position. He was talking to the TV people about camera angles, how they were shooting things. He asked, as MVP said, when he rode with him, he met him at an independent show. It wasn't that he asked him a million questions. It was that he knew the questions to ask. And he knew that he was going to be something. He could tell this kid was on the ball. This was before he was, shot through the heart by the bad booking.
He said that.
But anyway.
MVP said that MJF took him to see an HR documentary somewhere in Jersey from Bad Brains. That was pretty impressive to hear.
Okay, and tell me what any of that is. Tell me what any of that is. I don't know who Bad Brains is or what his...
Bad Brains.
I thought he was talking about CSNY, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young.
Bad Brains is a band, simply put, you would never like ever for any reason. But I got to see him a few years ago at the shop in Williamsburg. But not the kind of thing you expect to hear name dropped in a segment like this. That got my attention.
Well, I'm glad you understood it. But nevertheless, MVP did a brilliant job here, talking to MJF about how, but now, you've lost your way. You need to regroup. He built him up and said he was proud of him, but what are you doing, man? Why are you whining about Sunday? Why aren't you angry? Are you mad, hurting people? You've lost your edge. The boys in the back don't respect you. They don't fear you. But they fear the Hurt Syndicate, and that's what you're missing. And maybe I can help you again. And he offered the card, which is, again, compared to the golden ticket. But MJF, at first, he pushed the hand with the card down. He said, I do my own thing, and I don't need your help or advice. I was world champion for 406 days. And then MVP just said, focus on the word was. And he offered the card again. And this time MJF took it and he started thinking. And MVP left and MJF, there's got to be something. Something has to be done to salvage MJF, to kind of give him a restart, to have him be the obnoxious heel in a derogatory and taunting and smart ass way instead of the screaming mental case heel that he's had to become. There's got to be something to get him back in the more wins than losses and more home run promos than misses with these rotten stories and horrible opponents. Could it be MVP taking an interest in MJF as a single, managing the Hurts as a team, MJF not pulling up in the Hurt mobile and being inseparable like they're the Four Horsemen, but MVP being in MJF's corner, giving him veteran advice? The only place that is weak in his game is just because he's so young, with the veteran advice on how to react to things and coaching in matches. Does this completely reset him and he becomes a superstar again? Or it's forgotten in 3 weeks and nobody prospers? What do you think?
I don't know if any of these guys would agree to it if it was something that could be dropped in 3 weeks. But then again, I also don't know what Jeff Jarrett is. So what do I know? Yeah, I was hopeful for this. And I know even when I don't like an MJF segment, people still don't think lately that I'm mean enough about him. I mean, it's really crazy.
Now we've got to he's got to be boiled in oil and the fat sold for soap. We have to completely turn our backs. The talent is still there somewhere. It needs produced, and it needs to have not been ruined for the past 2 years.
And I've been saying MJF needs to be involved with different people, and he needs to be involved with main eventers, and he gets all of that here with not just MVP. As far as I'm concerned, it's a package deal. It's MVP and the Hurt Syndicate. If MJF's involved with MVP, that means there's now involvement between MJF and the Hurt Syndicate. That could go in a number of different ways.
Well, yes, but I don't think it should be overdone, because then MJF, who's always flourished on his own, I don't want him to become part of a group, but with a experienced veteran manager in his corner that can lead him back to the top. And then if there was a 6-man to be had or a big angle or whatever, one of the other Hurts could obviously get involved. But I think just the dynamic of having MVP and MJF together would do a world of good for MJF.
You keep saying in his corner. Do you think he should actually work the corner? Because usually he's been going to the commentary.
Yes, I think he should be his fucking manager. He should be on the promos with him, not to do all of them, but to be there. He should be the guy that's giving him the veteran advice. And the story is basically, yes, he just lost his edge because it came so quickly and so naturally to MJF. And now MVP's the fucking coach that has to bring back the eye of the tiger or whatever, and put him in the corner for big main event matches, because you might be able to obviously use him in some crucial situation and make it they could be Strangler Lewis and Luthez, for heaven's sake. What a dynamic combination that was.
Hopefully not Shawn Michaels and Jose Lothario.
Hopefully not that. That is what you would not do with that thing there. But anywho, would you like to move on?
Oh, I would love to. Yes.
Apparently so would Max Caster, and I think he needs to, because what the fuck is... They send him out to the ring to do the promo that nobody wants to hear, the chant that nobody is going to do. They scoff, boo at him. And it's like Vince McMahon, like cringy, bad 2019 era WWF. And then he's got an open challenge. And who answers the challenge from Max Caster? Take a shit. He's a fucking heel. He's another heel. But but not against Caster because the people don't like him because he's a whiny little bitch and a fucking goof. So they're cheering for Takeshita, who is one of their top main event heels. That was Caster tried to weasel out and he offered, well, I could just join Don's family. But Takeshita knocked him out, covered him, pulled him up at the count of 2, gave him a suplex, and then covered him and pinned him 1, 2, 3. And the fans cheered him, so they turned Takeshita babyface, one of their top heels, at the expense of again trying to bury Max Caster, a now mid-card at best heel that people already don't like this shit to begin with. Help me try to understand and grip all of this, Brian.
Well, first, let me start by disagreeing with you again. I said it last week and you thought I was crazy. I'm entertained by whatever the hell this is. And I'm under the impression it's Max Caster's idea, and this is kind of his thing. So now I'm really intrigued to see where this is going to go, because it doesn't seem like it could go anywhere but nowhere, but I'm dying to see
where
now.
Can it go? He is making himself look like an idiot, act like an idiot, get beaten in seconds by everybody that he fucking faces.
He's going to get that chant. I'll bet you he gets that chant. He keeps this up a few more weeks. I bet you one of these shows he gets the chant. And he's into it. He's really into it. It's like if Vince was punishing someone and that someone was himself. That's what this is, because apparently he thinks this is good stuff. So
okay, if this is his idea, then somebody needs to try to get him some therapy. Jericho is not doing the silly Hi Guys promos anymore. I guess the learning tree has been dropped after it placed so highly in the rotten gimmick polling of the year. But now he's doing good promos, serious promos, heel promos against people that nobody is going to want to see him fucking wrestle. Gravity and Bandito. It was a much better promo. You can watch these. You couldn't even watch the learning tree or the whatever the fuck that was. But does anybody want to see Chris Jericho against Bandito besides the same audience that is already watching this shit again to begin with, that will buy anything and believe anything's good?
And even if they wanted to see it, where would they see it? Isn't that a Ring of Honor feud? We haven't seen Chris Jericho wrestle on the show in a little while. It's just been these promos about stuff in Ring of Honor.
Yes, because that's, he's trying to lead the next generation over there. That's where he can serve out 7 of the next 9 years of his 10-year contract. And then we got Willow Nightingale versus Penelope Pit Stop. And I'm going to tell you what, there was some of the fakest shit that I've ever seen in a while in wrestling in this match and on this program in general. But I got to be honest with you, it was blown away in comparison. After Willow won, Penelope jumped her and hit, that word is used in quotation marks, hit her with the weakest chair shot I've ever seen on television across the back. And you could hear the fans go, like the air went out of them. The big drawback, it was like, oh. It took the air out of the people. Did you see that, or did you skip this to go outside?
I saw it. I've never seen that before on TV. I saw it once in person at the ECW Barely Legal pay-per-view when I was there. Lance Storm hitting Rob Van Dam with chair shots. It was the same thing.
What? Was Van Dam not looking at him and Lance was scared? Because normally Lance would have to apologize afterwards if it was something that was going to.
But this may have beaten that. This was not. Why are. Again, I go back to what you say about Dusty Rhodes, don't do shit you don't know how to do.
Don't do shit you don't know how to do, baby. What?
Or did Willow say, if you hit me with that fucking chair, I'm going to kick the shit out of you? What happened?
Or did they say, Penelope, you have to hit her with this fucking chair or we're going to fire you? And she's like, well, I can't do it because I'm not strong enough. I don't know. But anyway, that was that. And then Penelope got some fake heat. And then here came Chris Statlander and made the save. And then here came Megan Brain in and leveled both of them and did a big move on Statlander and stood there. So again, some more fakery followed by some more baby faces being left on their face.
What do you mean by fake heat?
The fake heat, as in all this shit that I'm doing to you looks fucking fake. Whether it's be the fake kicks or the fake punches or when they just wave their fist in the air in the general vicinity of the guy's head while they're sitting on top of him. It looks fucking fake. It's bullshit. What I don't know why it in every match that nobody can put an end to it by just saying, I'm not going to do that. I will get on top of the guy and I will punch and kick slower, but with feeling, and it will look good, like I'm trying to hurt the fucking guy. Or I can get on there and in high definition, 4K, fucking 3D, modern television, you can see that there's 6 inches in between my fist and the fucking guy's head. Jesus Christ. Anyway, you know what? Mercedes Mone finally got a sore throat and couldn't talk. I wanted to bake a cake. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfuckers. But then she spoke anyway. Did you see this interview?
No, I missed this. I have no idea what the hell you're talking about when you just went off there. No.
Okay, well, Renee Moxley Good was in the back with Mercedes Mone. And Mercedes tried to do the say hello to your CEO, but she said, I got kicked in the throat over the weekend. And she had Renee do, oh, then in that case, San Diego or where the fuck they're at, say hello to your CEO. Nobody still wanted to say hello to her. And Mercedes was starting to do a promo where she had some voice. I don't know. Maybe she did have a sore throat. And she was going to sound raspy, so she was trying to limit that. But remember that girl that was on last week that we said, what the fuck? Did somebody from the hot dog stand just walk in? It was Billy Starks, the teenager, apparently from here in Louisville.
That's right. I remember that.
Well, she walked in with the oddest like the hairdo of like if you're going to Walmart to run and get a few things about 11 at night. That hairdo and a trailer park house dress, she looked like a fucking fan that walked in. She's not comfortable. You can tell that on interviews. She got it out, but it looked like that she was worried that she was going to receive an electric shock from some kind of shock collar if she fucked it up any second. Her eyes were darting. And she wants a match next week, and Mercedes said, okay. So now we get Mercedes, who ain't worth 2 shits and a tickle, versus a teenager that has no hairdo, not allowed in a makeup chair yet, and was wearing a fucking house dress from West Virginia with sequins. That's gonna put some butts in seats. What the fuck is going on here? Anyway, you missed that completely.
I'm so sorry I missed it.
And then Tony Schiavone introduced Will Ospreay. And Ospreay comes out, and it's a live promo in the ring. And, of course, he referred to the cage match. And, of course, he says, Kyle Felcher will be a world champion one day. Because that's, what every great babyface would have said about every great heel after they beat him in a cage match. But he's going to be a world champion one day. No, the fucking guy tried to kill me and I fucking got him instead, and I'm glad and I hope he dies. It's a goddamn appropriate response. But nevertheless, Ospreay went into a long bit, and I got to give him this. He's trying to have a lot of personality. He's trying to be one of the bros, bruv. He's trying to be the top babyface and be able to just roll these promos out. And he did a long bit about lying to his wife that he wasn't going to do anything stupid in the cage. And it took a while. Brian, I'm going to say that the summation was it looked like that he was having a lot more fun telling that story than the fans were listening to it. Didn't it to you?
It certainly did, yes. And Tony Schiavone seemed miserable if you looked at his face during this.
Well, but now you know what it's resting Schiavone face at this point. He always looks like he's had some kind of barbed wire something shoved up his ass. But Will was laughing and giving Tony the ha-ha and the ribs, like, you know what I'm saying, bruv. No, nobody was really reacting to what you were saying, bruv. But he wants a shot at the world title, and he wants it. And when should he take his shot? Now, here's the thing. He says, when should I take my shot? When does it count the most? And he points up to the fucking banner. All in Texas, the stadium show. Is that thing still in a stadium as of this moment?
As of this moment, yes.
They haven't changed it like they did the Australia show.
There have been no changes. The big All In this summer.
Well, it's July. How long ahead of time did they change the Australia?
I don't remember.
It was a couple of months. But you know what? They're going to have a harder time changing this one because they've sold the city of Arlington a bill of goods about how many people they were going to attract to the fucking town. They better hope for tornado warnings. Then they could have some kind of explanation. But anyway, like as someone said on Twitter, like a Temu WrestleMania promo, he pointed at the All In Texas banner and said he's entering the Owen Hart tournament. Not the... Hold on, let me check my notes. Dynasty Eliminator Tournament for an international title match so that the guy who holds that can be the best in the world, but he's entering the Owen Hart Tournament where the winner will get a world title shot so he can be the best in the world. And he said, and I'm going to be in there with other great competition like Edge. No reaction. It's another baby face. Nobody wants to see that match to begin with. And then he mentions Swerve. No reaction. Who wants to see Swerve versus Ospreay? No fucking body. Then he mentions Moxley. And there was a smattering of no boos. Like somebody just let a loud fart in the movies and you go, oh no. Like they were offended that that was an option. And that's when they announced, or they may have announced it beforehand, but they reiterated that next week it would be Moxley versus Edge in a title match in a street fight. So it's a street fight. No DQ. So, and Ospreay he did the promo. He's entering the Owen Hart tournament. So we pretty much know what the main event is now. It'll be Ospreay going for the world title against whoever the fuck. And if it's Moxley, that means April, May, 4 more months of this dreck.
You know, the Moxley push may be the biggest example there is of Tony Khan ignoring his fan base. I can't think of a bigger one.
I think you're right, because I mean, he's done a lot of bad things, but the fan base liked many of the bad things he did, especially early on before they caught a whiff of the way things were going to turn out.
And even stuff like Punk, that like split a portion of the fan base. You still had a lot of supporters. With Moxley, the hardcore AEW fans don't like it. The people who mock AEW don't like it. Nobody seems to like it. And Tony Khan's insistent on it.
Maybe he just doesn't have the courage to tell Moxley, no, this sucks. We're not doing it anymore. I pay you a fortune. Do whatever the fuck I tell you to do. But then again, you got Tony Khan telling you what to do. But for Moxley, that would probably be an improvement. Can't believe I said that. Anyway, would you like to know what the next interview backstage was?
Oh, yeah.
Renee with Jay White. Help me. Jay White just became a babyface and came out to help Edge, right?
He's been involved with he's been involved with everything with Edge and the Moxley crew for weeks. Yeah.
Okay, well, he started out making fun of Ospreay. another babyface and said they were protecting Ospreay from him. What? The AEW is protecting Ospreay from me. Well, that doesn't. And then he said, I didn't hit Edge on purpose at the pay-per-view. Remember, he swung the briefcase, Moxley moved, Jay White hit Edge, but it wasn't on purpose. And he was saying it straight, not like a heel denying something. So first he's knocking another babyface, saying they're protecting Ospreay from him. Then he claims innocence. I didn't hit Edge on purpose at the pay-per-view. And then he started screaming about how he wanted to be the number one contender. I don't know what's going on with him. Blah.
Yeah.
Could you understand the screaming?
I think he would be a big star in the middleweight division that I proposed earlier.
He does have that slim waist and those girlish hips. Well, then Renee was in the back. God damn, this girl's been in more laps than a napkin. She was in the back with Hangnail, and they were walking, and he literally bumped into MJF. Literally, and that word is being used for once appropriately. He bumped into MJF walking the other direction. And Renee just looks up and runs, oh my God, and runs away. And they proceed to talk to each other for the next, I'd say 3 or 4 minutes. Paige calmly telling MJF that he knows now MJF really cares about what the fans think of him. And MJF saying, well, I'm going to back up a little bit from you because you smell like rotten ass. But I'm going to call your bluff, Hangman. And then he goes on a long rant where MJF will go on to be a Hall of Famer and a GOAT. And Paige will fall short of the pinnacle and wallow in his own self-pity. And the fans are going to get tired of waiting for Hangnail to win the big one. But MJF, I'm going to be the world heavyweight champion over and over. Guess that means you're going to get beat like a fucking rug, because to be the champion over and over, you have to keep losing it. I would think it would be more of a thing I will be the champion that will reign more than my previous 400 days. Nevertheless, Paige's response to that was, well, we'll see, won't we? These two guys were having a snide discussion with little digs at each other's character after they fought Sunday, and one guy tried to set the other guy on fucking fire. And now they're giving each other personal digs about their improper character. The fuck? Am I the only one that remembered that? That didn't they just try to literally disembowel each other?
Yeah, it was last week, I believe.
Last week, and MJF was going to set the motherfucker on fire, and now they're exchanging witticisms a foot away from each other. Any comments on that one before we go to the main event?
I can't justify it. I can't add anything to it.
That's what MVP, please save our boy. And now it was time for the main event of the evening. Hold on, let me check my notes. In the Dynasty Eliminator Tournament for the International title shot, the main event of this television show was Pockets against Hechichero. And they rang the bell to start the thing at 9:58. I guarantee you, so that it was late enough that it wouldn't get the blame for killing the quarter. Even if the quarter died, they only got 2 minutes of it. Now the overrun should suck, because Joe Schmo wasn't on. It was Modern Family again, a Modern Family rerun. Can you believe that they seriously put that on a television show? That they put it on a television show, period, is embarrassing. But that was their main event and a tournament match for a tournament that we're supposed to take seriously.
Yeah, I hope you don't mind. I didn't watch that match. It's not a main event.
I hope you don't think I fucking did. I didn't even bother to check. If anybody came out with a chainsaw or something during the overrun, I don't know that happened either.
Well, we'll probably be able to figure that out when we talk about the ratings, but that was AEW Dynamite on, what was it? It was the
March 12th.
The 12th of March.
The 12th of never. Uh, are they serious? This is bad indie wrestling on television, and they don't even have like the X star that they pay a guarantee to come in and main event to show for it. It's just bad indie wrestling.
Well, Jim, let's talk about the ratings and let's see if these were good or bad indie ratings. AEW Dynamite on March 12th on TBS, 8 to 10:08 p.m. On average, watched by 628,000 viewers.
Boy, howdy, they ought to be turning cartwheels down there in Jacksonville. They got back up over 600. Remember, they were 500 something for 2 weeks. They hit 600 even last week, and they actually got 28,000 more people for this shit show. That's luck.
This is 7% up on the 4-week average of 585. Let's go to the
What would they have tuned in to see here that could have been advertised ahead of time? Or is it just they just happened to pick a night like this to watch the show? There's nothing. I don't know what they advertised ahead of time, but there's nothing that could be advertised ahead of time. No match.
Well, again,
we'll hear from so-and-so.
Well, although comparing it to last week, we have to bring up they were against NXT in a lot of places last week. So that's
very true, because they were bouncing back and forth as we saw all over the place. But
and it killed the key demo. But let's go to the ratings here. These were these are television ratings. That is indeed the word.
Yes, that's the word that we normally use every week here in this segment.
These were compiled by WrestleNomics, quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. The Kenny Omega live promo, Eli Thesis, Gabriel Eros, and Vinny Pacifico versus the Ops, the Ricochet backstage promo, and the Swerve Strickland backstage promo. 749,000 viewers.
Okay, I think they started out a little bit better than last week from what I recall. Not the 8s and 9s that they used to have, but those days are gone. The Big Bang Theory got poisoned. But they're gonna lose some fucking viewers over the course of this thing if that's where they're starting.
Well, we go to quarter 2, 8:15, 8:30 p.m. The Swerve Strickland Cope backstage confrontation, the John Moxley backstage promo, and the start of Brian Cage and Dralistico versus Powerhouse Hobbs and Hologram. 604,000 viewers.
Oh, good Lord. Okay. Now let me reevaluate that. They lost 145,000 people in the first 15 minutes. Now where they are, they're going to have to stay fairly steady until at least the last couple quarters of this thing to be able to make the average.
Well, we go to quarter 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. The continuation of Cage and Dralistico versus Hobbs and Hologram. The post-match with Lance Archer and Mark Davis. The Hurt Syndicate backstage promo. And the Toni Storm Mariah May video. Followed by Storm Megan Bayne ramp angle. And an ad break. 645,000 viewers.
So the girls brought back 41,000 sexually frustrated AEW fans. What I can read into that.
Well, we go to quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m.
What is there for us frustrated wrestling fans?
The Beast Mortos versus Speedball Mike Bailey with
Speed Bailey. It just ought to be Speed Bailey.
With picture-in-picture, 611,000 viewers. Also, the low point in the key demo, 198,000.
And I mean, I would expect the last quarter or two to be lower than this just because of the stinky show leading up to it. But again, who's going to watch this fucking bull in a mask against a guy that we've never seen that looks like he's in the 6th grade?
It'll be interesting to see who stays to watch him the next time he's on. We go now to the big 9 o'clock hour, quarter 5, 9 to 9:15 p.m. Continuation of Beast versus Bailey. The Patriarchy backstage angle. the MJF backstage angle, and the MJF MVP live promo, 649,000 viewers. And the high point in the key demo, 244.
So they went from the outhouse to the penthouse in the key demo in 2 segments. And at the top of the hour, they gained 38,000 people to get them back a little bit over where they were in quarter 3. And it was MJF. He still means a little something till they get finished stomping those embers out.
Well, we go now to quarter 6, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. An ad break. The Max Caster live promo, Caster versus Takeshita, a Revolution recap, the Chris Jericho backstage promo, and the start of Penelope Ford versus Willow Nightingale with picture-in-picture, 634,000 viewers.
And back down 15. They're still in the pocket. From quarter 2 on, they've been between 604 and 649. And I have my suspicions, but I'll wait for 7 and 8 in the overrun to tell you.
Let's go to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The continuation of Ford versus Willow. The post-match with Megan Bayne. The Mercedes Moné Billy Starks backstage angle. And the Will Ospreay live promo. 608,000 viewers.
And still in that same pocket. And now quarter 8 has to fall off the cliff.
We go now to quarter 8. I remind you, we have an 8-minute overrun. Quarter 8, 9:45 to 10 p.m. The Jay White backstage promo, an ad break, Adam Page and MJF's backstage angle, and the start of Orange Cassidy versus Hechicero with picture-in-picture. 570,000 viewers. 8-minute overrun, including the post-match with Speedball Mike Bailey. 535,000 viewers.
Oh, good Lord. So the lowest quarter hour was the last, as I figured, but then they managed to run 35,000 people off the overrun. Not only did nobody tune in to watch Modern Family, but the people that were already watching this fucking show wouldn't hang with it because of pockets. This is what we've got now. They used to start a few years ago with the Big Bang lead-in that was 800-something thousand or 900-something thousand, and they would lose the viewership pretty steadily through the show, but because they started higher, they were still ending up in a 6s or 7s, and that was considered crummy at the end of the show. Now what they've done is they're starting lower, but they're still losing usually a good chunk of people after the first 15 minutes that just didn't bargain for anything like this, but they're more consistent now because they are down to the people that are going to watch this show because this is the kind of wrestling that they like, or they hope it's going to be good, or they're more devoted. And they might bounce back and forth a little bit, but after the first quarter, until quarter 8, they were between 604 and 649,000 people. And it goes back and forth rather than just being a continuous downhill drop that like it used to be. So I think this is the base audience. And then quarter 8, they're losing another 38,000, being 570, and then another 35,000 for the overrun. That's when the base audience of 600 and something thousand sees that, okay, the only thing that's left is something that we don't even want to see. And then they lose about 75,000 of those. But otherwise, if this many people are watching this show, they're watching it on purpose. They don't care whether it's any good or not, because these shows have been worse and worse. So this, to me, seems like it's the base audience. They're going to have to really fuck up in some kind of major way to lose a significant portion of the 650,000 they've got left. Don't you think?
If I'm reading this chart correctly, there's a WrestleNomics chart here. And it seems to indicate this past week that we just reviewed was down 19% off of last year, the same week. And if you look at the entire year, 24, the entire year, was 18% less than 23, and so far, 25 is 25% less than 24. And that's the first quarter of the year, by and large.
Yeah. I mean, you know, that they have lost audience every year because of all the reasons we've said. How long can you watch the same goddamn thing? The same kind of matches, the same way, and they've done everything. But they're gonna get a baseline to where that, you know, this is the amount of people that will watch or tolerate or get into or be interested in indie wrestling in the United States. And that's about where they're at now. They might lose small numbers at a time now, but I don't think they can do almost anything and run the rest of these people off because this is what those people like. They think it's good. So we'll see. I don't, you know, in a year, we'll see if we're talking about they're starting in the 6s and ending in the 4s instead of starting in the 6s and ending in the 5s.
Well, those are the ratings, AEW Dynamite. We'll see what happens next week. And this is your show.